Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video. My name is Marian Guevara, and today I thought I'd do a little update on my bookshelves. Towards the beginning of this channel, I did a little bookshelf tour, but since my collection has grown a bit, I decided I'll do an update. But today I'll be focusing on my classics, which are on these, well, technically 3 shelves over here. And for those who don't know, my books are arranged, well, my classics are arranged by edition, and then within edition, I tend to go through chronological order. So, yeah. And that's a little overview. So let's get started with this top shelf over here. So on this, top shelf, we have some little knickknacks. I got this bust with like this flower on top that I just thought it was, looked really cool. We have this Jane Austen Funko Pop and this Thomas Sharp Funko Pop from the film Crimson Peak. And then over here we have all my Folio Society edition books. So I really love Folio Society. I try to get a folio edition of, maybe not all, but some of my favorite books of all time. So we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. We got Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is my newest one, which is the Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, which I got, I think, for my birthday. I purchased for my birthday like a year or two ago. And then down below we have the only Art of Movie book that I own, which is Crimson Peak. But yeah, these are the books that I have on the top shelf along with the knickknacks. They're up here because like they just don't fit on the shelves down below. So yep, here's the first shelf. So here we have the second shelf of my classics. On the left side we have mainly the hardcover editions. So starting off, we have Everyman's Library. So starting off, we have The Divine Comedy. This is the translation by Alan Mandelbaum. I read and studied Inferno with his translation for college or high school. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to get the entire comedy with Mandelbaum's translation. We got The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. This is like the older edition. We have a plain white cover. And then next to that, we have one of the many copies of The Great Gatsby that I do own. So yeah, this one just has like a picture of Scott. Next to those, we have the Virago Modern Classics. Now, these editions, I would say, are more like collector's items rather than like hardbacks to read, because the spines feel like, they're on the verge of breaking whenever you open this book. But I really enjoy them. We have Jamaica Inn. And then we have My Cousin Rachel. And following those, we have my Corley Bickford Smith designed Art Deco hardcovers. And these are probably the most beautiful hardcovers you can find for Fitzgerald's works. So we got Flappers and Philosophers. This stunning like golden black. We got This Side of Paradise. You can't really see it, but yeah. We got The Great Gatsby. And then Tender's the Night. This one and The Great Gatsby kind of fight each other for like my favorite Fitzgerald. I do love like the silver and black. We got The Last Tycoon. Next we have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is part of the Penguin Clothbound collection, but I'm wary about getting any more others because I have seen these books before, a lot of times in store, and I know for a fact that it's easy for like the pattern to kind of just rub off. So like I said, I'm kind of hesitant on getting any more, but it's Jane Eyre, so. Next we have my favorite, I would say, yeah, my favorite paperback classics. So we have the Penguin English Libraries. So we have The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is one of the older editions because if you open it, there you go. You got a picture of old Wilkie Collins himself. I adore this book so much. This was my favorite book of 2017. It's a really chunky one, but I sped through this. Next we have Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. Another chunky book, but honestly, this might be my favorite Gaskell. It's so chunky and yet it's unfinished. It was almost finished, but sadly, Gaskell died before finishing it, but we kind of know what the ending is. It might not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of Gaskell and you haven't read Wives and Daughters, I highly recommend that you do. Next, we got my Thomas Hardy's I just adore these books. Like 3 out of these 4 are like straight up just 5-star reads. So we have the, Far from the Madding Crowd. We have Two in a Tower, which, overall people aren't that much of a fan of this, but I really enjoyed Two in a Tower by him. We have The Mayor of Casterbridge. This one and then Tess kind of vie for my favorite ones so far. This is another older edition of the Penguin English Libraries because, there's old Thomas Hardy there. Really, really enjoyed Mayor of Casterbridge. This one took me a while, mainly because it was so, like, I don't know, emotionally intense for me. Speaking of emotionally intense, we have Tess of the D'Urbervilles, one of my favorite classics. I just adore Tess of the D'Urbervilles. It is tragic, but really good. And then we have The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. We have my favorite cover out of the collection, which is The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I love the orange and cyan. And then next to that, we have The House of Mirth, an amazing book. I really adored the character of Lily Bart, even though she is incredibly flawed. I was just so invested, and it's such a beautifully written book. That last line was just amazing. And then the last book on the shelf, we have Persuasion by Jane Austen. My favorite Jane Austen. If you saw my rankings of her works, you know that this is my favorite of hers. At times maybe somber, but still beautiful, and has the best love letter ever penned in literature ever. So finally we have the third shelf of my classics. So same editions. Towards the end, we have books where I only have one book from that edition, so they kind of group together. Yeah, but overall, I still group them. So I'll first start off with these on the top. These are my Macmillans. I have 3, and I have here The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, and then lastly, my favorite Shakespeare tragedy, Julius Caesar. So on the far left, we have the Mina Lima version of The Little Mermaid and Other Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. If you saw my last video, you would have seen this book. I'm just a huge fan of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. He's probably my favorite fairy tale author. Followed by that, we have some of the Penguin Classics Deluxe editions. The first one we have here is The Call of Cthulhu and Other Weird Stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So here we have the cover. I really dig this cover art. This dapper Cthulhu. And on the end pages, they also have this. We have a North Atlantic Dagon worshipper. Here we have a South Pacific Dagon worshipper. I love it. Such a cool and creative cover design. And another amazing one they did is of this, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Talk about a cover that just perfectly encapsulates the mood, the atmosphere of the story. I love this artwork. It's so just uncanny. So next we have the NYRBs. So yeah, the New York Review Books, I believe that's what they're called. So we have My Fantômes by Théophile Gautier. This one I read actually in college. I checked it out of the library. And the reason why I was so interested in this in the beginning was that there was a blurb by H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know if you can see it, but it says, "It is in Théophile Gautier that we first seem to find an authentic French sense of the unreal world, and here there appears a spectral mystery which is genuine and profound." Next we have Shadows of Carcosa. So we have Tales of Cosmic Horror by Lovecraft, Chambers, Macklin Poe, and other masters of the weird. I wouldn't say all of these are cosmic horror. For sure weird fiction, but not necessarily cosmic. But look at this cover. Amazing. And then following that, we have another short story collection. This one by Edith Wharton. She actually wrote ghost stories. And this is her collection, Ghosts. Excellent. I really enjoyed this one. It's not necessarily, I guess, super scary. It's not gonna terrify you, but I really enjoyed the stories in here. And lastly, for the NYRBs, we have The Other by Thomas Tryon. Excellent psychological horror, very Shirley Jackson-esque. Next, we have my Penguin Black Spines. So we got Teresa Khan by Emile Zola. This is my first read from him, and I really enjoyed it. It ended in such a creepy way. Then we have some Lovecraft, of course. We got The Dreams in the Witch House. And then we got The Thing on the Doorstep. And then following that, we have Haunted Castles by Ray Russell, which I'm sure I talked about this in my, I think, spooky recommendations video. But yeah, impressive collection of Gothic stories. Then following that, we have my small Oxford World Classics editions. So we have Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars. We got The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. Out of all the authors who inspired Lovecraft, I feel like Machen is my favorite. I don't know, there's something about The Great God Pan that I really enjoyed. I just really like his use of like Celtic folklore and mythology. I highly recommend this edition of The Great God Pan and other horror stories. I think it's like the most comprehensive, at least for me. Next, we have some modern classics. First, we have Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. This is meant to be sort of like a prequel, like a fan fiction-esque prequel to Jane Eyre, following Bertha Mason. The thing is, people fall into two camps. They either read this, don't like it, and love Jane Eyre, or like they read this and love this, and then don't like Jane Eyre. But I like them both. And then we have Perfume, The Story of a Murder by Patrick Suskind. Next, we have the Alma Classics editions of some of Fitzgerald's works. We have Babylon Revisited. This is my favorite short story collection of his, especially that title short story, Babylon Revisited. Just an excellent, excellent short story from Fitzgerald. Nearly all of these were like 5-star reads for me. And then we have Tender's the Night. So this is the edition I read Tender's the Night from. This one I actually tabbed because it's just so beautifully written. I had to tab. So next we have some two Ishiguros, and I don't know if people would put these in classics. I consider them modern classics. So we have The Remains of the Day, which I just adore. This is a 5-star read. This one I read for leisure, and I know kind of broke me, in a very quiet, slow way. And then the same with Never Let Me Go. Next we have some of the I forgot what these are called, like Penguin Pocket Classics, I think. So we have The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And then we have The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Next we have sort of like the miscellaneous classic editions. So we have Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. We have my Rhodes edition of Dracula. Rhodes was like I believe a photography company that also put out editions of classics, and the covers all resembled this. And unfortunately, I don't think they're around anymore, so these are out of print, and I'm so happy I was able to get Dracula because this is easily the most beautiful one out of the set. Next, we have just a Scribner edition of The Great Gatsby. This one has the original cover, The Celestial Eyes. And then we have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is part of like the vintage dystopian collection. They had 1984 and Handmaid's Tale. I really wanted the 1984 to match with this, but unfortunately it's out of print. Next we have The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. I actually studied this in college. Really enjoyed this one. Similar to House of Mirth, this one has like one of my favorite ending lines. We have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, part of the Penguin Orange collection. My favorite Shirley Jackson out of the ones that I've read from her. Over here we have, this is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. This is part of the Penguin Ink collection where they had tattoo artists doing the cover art. This one is definitely one of the harder ones to get for sure. I don't think this one is available anymore. And then lastly, we have Beloved by Toni Morrison. This was in my favorite books of last year. So yeah, I've read quite a bit of Toni Morrison, but Beloved is probably my favorite one of hers. So those were all the books on my classics shelves. I hope you guys enjoyed this little mini tour of all the books here. And I hope to make a part 2 soon. And yeah, Thanks for watching and sticking around. I'll see you later in the next video. Bye!